It's time for another unnecessary debate. Is Cowboy Bebop better than Samurai Champloo? Or the other way round? Or why even have this discussion and just enjoy both equally for what they are? Well, that's not the case when it comes to something popular. This is the case with Batman and Superman, Frasier and Ali, Zeus and Jupiter, McDonald's and Burger King, Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. Whoa. Ignore the last one. Obviously, The Hobbit is far superior to the trash that is Lord of the Rings. A classic example is the Ronaldo and Messi debate. Both considered the greatest footballers of the modern era, but people are always passionate to say one is better than the other, and it turns into an ugly and bitter feud. So let's do the same with Bebop and Champloo. Both are directed by Shinichiro Watanabe, both extremely popular in the Western world, both have insanely good English dubs. It's impossible not to talk about one without the other. They both evoke a unique style in their respective worlds. One is a space western noir and the other is this historical samurai adventure, but both have mixed and fused from various genres that creates a distinct flavour. And in spite of these two worlds being different in time period and genre, you can draw a lot of similarity to the characters and the way their journeys progress. The characters reluctantly come together and form a team that grows and develops but becomes impeded by their individual fates. The music in both stories are considered one of the best soundtracks to an anime. And the reason why the two shows have been really popular in the West is not just because of the English dubs. Cowboy Bebop aired in 1998 and was different to other anime. It was gritty and mature with the right balance of violence that didn't put off the audience. You had Akira, Ghost in the Shell and Berserk, but none of these resonated as greatly as Cowboy Bebop. The anime became more popular in America than it did in Japan. When Samurai Champloo came out in 2004, director Watanabe intended to make it for a Western audience in mind, since Cowboy Bebop had been such a major success overseas. It made sense to target the demographic to the people who actually loved his shows. Since the release of both, I would say Cowboy Bebop remains the more popular of the two. It's usually the one you're first introduced to know and then find out that Samurai Champloo exists. But does that mean Cowboy Bebop is better? Many would say yes. It's always on the top 5 of any anime list. Samurai Champloo is very rarely talked about or considered in the best anime of all time conversation, but when it comes to these lists, I feel they pick the popular anime rather than the acclaimed. Within the episodes of Cowboy Bebop, it explores themes of existentialism, isolation and identity. And these themes reflect in the finale of the anime, when the protagonist confronts a ghost from his past. And Samurai Champloo is just a show about finding the samurai who smells of sunflowers. That's how many would view the two shows when trying to pitch the synopsis. But I don't feel that's fair towards Samurai Champloo. The themes of loneliness and trying to escape one's past is greatly touched on throughout the anime. The only reason why it's not talked about as much as Cowboy Bebop is because it doesn't have a noir aesthetic that makes the characters look depressed in the most vulnerable moments while a saxophone plays in the background. But Samurai Champloo does show these themes of loneliness in different ways. The philosophy is also evident via the contrast of the two male characters Jin and Mugen. One is traditional and chivalrous, whereas the other is rebellious and unpredictable. There are even a few proverbs containing valuable lessons scattered in various episodes. Both anime don't exactly hook you from the first episode. For Cowboy Bebop, episode 5 was the one that really got people invested into the story. It explored Spike's past with the Red Dragon crime syndicate and his old enemy Vicious. But let's look at the best and worst attributes of the characters in each anime. Spike is one of the coolest characters in anime history. He's a complicated person who appears quite laid back, but behind this facade is a tragic history that adds a profound depth to his character. Faye Valentine is at first viewed as this femme fatale-like character. She is a lot like Spike in the sense that she is brash and tough. She indulges in debauchery and violence, but as the show progresses, Faye grows into a more caring person. And you begin to see why she acts so tough in the first place. There is a history of pain and hurt that has left Faye traumatized. Her arrogance and sarcasm are almost defensive mechanisms to hide her pain from the Bebop crew. Jet is the cop turned bounty hunter and is pretty much the one keeping the crew from falling apart. He doesn't have an interesting backstory, but he's a very likable character who has great chemistry with everyone. Ed is the opposite of the three. To call her quirky is an understatement. Her hyper-personality complements the story when it gets serious. Sometimes that can be quite irritating for viewers who may find her presence annoying, but I don't really have this problem with her. She fits the group nicely, though I would probably rank her as my least favourite character in the group. Even Ayn ranks higher. But she is a great device for balancing the humour with the drama. Her contribution is very much akin to the Minions. In Despicable Me, they work very well as a supporting character and often steal the show at times. But when the Minions had their own movie, It just wasn't the same. If there was a show where Ed is the main character, there is no chance you would see me watching that. I would walk straight out the door. So yeah, she's fine as a supporting role, but I don't really care about her because I don't find her very interesting as a character. Fu is probably the least interesting of the trio in Champloo, but I find her likable to the point where I am invested in her journey and her fate. Jin and Mugen are different warriors. They have different upbringings and do not get along with each other. Their fighting style perfectly encapsulates their feud, and what makes them such important characters of the anime is how their opposing views clash, and sometimes they find that they're not so different from each other. Jin, Mugen and Fu work together as a trio really well. I think the same can be argued for Spike, Jet and Faye, but the addition of Ed isn't particularly necessary, and maybe having a trio in Cowboy Bebop would have worked better. There comes a stage in the middle of both anime where there is a very strong and powerful two-part episode. In Cowboy Bebop, Jupiter Jazz is this epic tale of a fallen warrior. It's a truly dramatic and old-fashioned adventure that shows why this anime is such an emotional roller coaster. In Samurai Champloo, the two-part episode is called Misguided Miscreants. It explores Mugen's past and is the first episode of the show that really strays away from its comedic tone and replaces it with a hard-hitting palette of revenge. Let's take a look at what's considered the worst episode from each anime. For Cowboy Bebop, it's Boogie Woogie Feng Shui and Cosmic Collisions for Champloo. They both come at pivotal moments in the story's arc. It's almost as if Watanabe wanted to give the audience and himself a breather for what lies ahead in the final few episodes. The quote-unquote worst episodes aren't really bad. For Champloo, you could argue that Baseball Blue is also one of the least liked, but I disagree with that. Boogie Woogie Feng Shui is definitely the worst episode of Cowboy Bebop. It plays out as this noir detective story that just isn't that fun. The relationship between Jet and Mei Fa is strange to say the least, and it doesn't really develop Jet's character like the other solo character episodes. It was just an okay episode with some cool animation towards the end. Cosmic Collisions, not to be confused with Ice Age Collision Course.
Doesn't fix the wall now, does it, you little...
It's a trippy episode and you can't quite figure out what's going on. The episode really stands out for its uniqueness but ultimately doesn't go anywhere or make any sense for the future. Neither does Baseball Blues, but it was fun trying to figure out if the trio was just on mushrooms or if it was a genuine zombie horror show. But if these are the worst episodes that they have to offer, then that's a very good sign about the quality of the two anime. There is a good balance of humour in both anime. I would sway more towards a comedy in Samurai Champloo. There's a lot of laid-back wackiness that goes on in certain episodes. It almost echoes The Last Airbender in a way. There are side characters the trio encounter throughout the anime who are quite odd and unique. Like the sensei who teaches Mugen to read is ridiculously over the top.
Literate, you're automatically branded as an idiot. Don't that piss you off, boy? Well, don't it? Are you okay with being an idiot? Answer the question!
Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop have that fine tune of not taking every episode seriously. They both have episodes that aren't crucial to the main arc but can be enjoyed nonetheless. But I honestly prefer the way the humour in Samurai Champloo is handled, because they really go off-road. Hell, there's even an episode where they're playing baseball against Americans, and it somehow felt like another ordinary episode, even though it was one of the strangest. Alright, we can't not talk about these two anime without the music.
I think it's time we blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
The music elevates the two anime into another level. It's so engrossing and memorable. Each track remains imprinted in your mind to the point where it feels like the composers are the ones telling the story. And that's pretty much what Yoko Kanno did for Cowboy Bebop. Though it did frustrate the hell out of the animators and Watanabe, she would provide tracks that the director didn't even ask for. But the music was so good that Watanabe took inspiration and created new scenes for the story. The music in Cowboy Bebop is a blend of jazz, opera and western. They merge really nicely to create this bleak and poignant atmosphere, but it can also feel quite uplifting and epic. I don't even think you need to be a fan of jazz to like the music. It perfectly fits the visuals of the anime and it's very difficult not to start tapping your feet to the intro. Samurai Champloo is not composed by Yoko Kanno, but by 4 hip-hop composers, and one of them being the late Nujabes, who is considered the pioneer of lo-fi music. Like Cowboy Bebop, there is a mix of different genres that you wouldn't expect to see in a samurai adventure. The hip-hop genre really marks its territory on the show's tone from the first episode. You get the feeling that this isn't your typical Seven Samurai type of show. It's set in the past but feels quite modern at the same time. The legacy of Cowboy Bebop is something Samurai Champloo cannot compete with. There have been manga adaptations, a movie, a video game, and even a Netflix series. That was weird.
We have to find Villager before he does spooky bad things.
Although I feel that Samurai Champloo touches on ideas and philosophies with equal merit as Cowboy Bebop, I am in the minority. And that's because Samurai Champloo doesn't explore high concept ideas. And I think Cowboy Bebop benefits from this because it's a science fiction story, which allows it to follow through on the nature of humanity, war, and corruption with a distinctive twist. It's also not as laid back in the humour like Champloo. When you look at the episodes individually, they are a lot more serious and touch on themes that really stick with you. But exploring real adult themes doesn't make it superior. So long as the characters are entertaining and the story is exciting, then that's good enough. Cowboy Bebop just so happens to carry all of these elements, which makes it a truly special anime. When you take in the journey, the characters, the music, the period, the serene animation, Samurai Champloo is an unforgettable experience. You feel nostalgic when you hear a track like Aurorian Dance or whenever the outro song plays. It certainly has a more satisfying conclusion than Cowboy Bebop simply because it didn't end on such a dour note. The characters go their separate ways in both anime, but in Samurai Champloo it feels bittersweet and makes you appreciate the journey. Whereas in Bebop, the breakup of the group is built up over the last few episodes and does so in a gut-wrenching way. I didn't particularly care when Ed left, but when Ayn left along with her,
ついてきちゃダメだよ、アイ。エドは遠い遠いとこへ行くんだよ。もう戻ってこないかもしれない。
and it was during a sequence where the song just drained every tear out of me, and you just feel empty after that. It looked as though Champloo was heading in that direction. The past was foreshadowing Jin and Mugen's fate to a dismal conclusion, but the result was a happier version and one I would have liked to see in Cowboy Bebop. But unfortunately, not every story has a happy ending. So one may have ended more tragically than the other, but what can't be denied is that both anime deliver an eventful finale, and was definitely the high point of their respective stories. I would consider the quality of both anime to be on the same level. They both have their own strengths and weaknesses. I myself would probably sway towards Samurai Champloo simply because of their aesthetic style and music. Time will be kind to both anime in the future. There are not many stories as unique as these two, so it's better to just appreciate the legacy they've created.